Good afternoon to you. 3:06 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, 3:30, Mike Davis talks to us from the Article 3 Project as Donald Trump is now trapped in court for the next, 6 to 8 weeks during the presidential campaign. Democrats essentially imprisoning him inside of a courtroom in New York. Mike Davis reacts to that ahead. Nate Huckman will be with us at 4:30. He's a senior advisor to the America 2100 and a writer for the American Spectator. We talk about NPR's new crazy CEO. She's nuts. And then Joe Kent is here. He's running for Congress. He's a veteran. He'll react to Israel's incredible defense of itself in the face of Iranian missile barrages. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Holy cow, that Iron Dome is something else, isn't it? You know, most people can't throw a football in a spiral. Israel is shooting missiles down in midair as they're raining into their country over the weekend. And the Iranians now doing this, not by proxy, as they usually do, but directly. And that was a big stinking failure, wasn't it, for them? What did they think was going to happen? Exactly. What did they think was going to happen? Yeah, we had hundreds of missiles and drones and rockets flying in, not just from Iran, but all of these Iranian proxies, from Iraq and Yemen and Syria and Lebanon. And the Israelis caught them all, almost all of them. There was one Israeli girl I heard this morning. She was wounded by some of the shrapnel falling from one of the intercepted missiles. So they successfully intercepted the missile. She was hit by the shrapnel and is now in critical condition as a result, at least at last I heard. And I'm lifting up a prayer for her today in her recovery. But just amazing technology, though. Amazing what man's able to accomplish just by getting all of the various radars together and the computers and the missiles and just being able to intercept these things. Really amazing defense for Israel over the weekend. But this comes as Iran has decided to bring this thing to the next level, as they now, for the first time in the history of the relations between these two countries, have these direct missile launches from Iran into Israel. Meanwhile, here in the United States, we've got extremists running about. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And today, they've decided to take it upon themselves to shut down traffic all around the country, various places. This morning, we had traffic shut down Chicago O'Hare Airport. Here are the anti-Israel lunatics just standing in the street, shutting down all the traffic to the airport. And people were literally bailing out of their cars, dragging their bags behind them, and walking a great distance to the airport just to make their flights. Within the last hour here in lower Manhattan, we have anti-Israeli protesters squaring off with Israeli supporters, actually. You can see some Israeli flags in the face of some of these Palestinian flags and watermelons. There are people flying watermelon balloons and holding up pictures of watermelons as symbols of anti-Israel resistance, which is a real betrayal of the watermelon, which is a fantastic food that is now being co-opted by the anti-Israel crowd. Here they are screaming like crazy and also waving Hezbollah flags, the terror group, of course, backed by Iran. Meanwhile, also in California, you might expect we have some of this going on as well. Some extremists out there shutting down traffic this morning for a time in Oakland, California, causing major traffic backups northbound on I-880 in Oakland. The protesters there, the loonies there, they filled barrels with concrete and then chained themselves to the barrels this morning. Law enforcement, in order to break all of this up, had to cut through the barrels before they could arrest the protesters. It looked like the images that I saw, and I'm not crystal clear on this, the images that I saw looked like they almost had their hands inside of the barrels in the concrete, and they were cutting down through the concrete to get to hands to separate them. But however they did it, they held up traffic for some time today. Also, traffic has been upheld for the last few hours on the Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco as well. Here's some of the sound from there.
For the last 6 months, unprecedented genocide in history. American money and American weapons.
Is this person wearing a mask, by the way, as they do this? Yeah, a lot of these people are still wearing COVID masks at all of these events. COVID masks at these events all across the country. Why is that the theme? What's with the masks and the anti-Israel sentiment at the same time?
And billions of U.S. tax dollars to Israel to fund this genocide of innocent Palestinian civilians.
Yeah, the way that they are locking down the traffic right now on the bridge, on the Golden Gate Bridge, is they have their arms inside of the vehicles. And it looks like what you have are these people are chained together, and they have PVC pipe over their arms. So I guess they connected their hands inside of the PVC pipe, chained together, and they've got PVC pipe wrapped around their arms, plastic piping wrapped around their arms, making it very, very difficult to move everybody in question. Although I do kind of think that you could just drive the car, couldn't you? Couldn't you just have somebody steer and just drive this thing out of the way? And the person who's attached to the driver, well, they could just walk. Open up the bridge. Why is it taking hours to do this? Why is it taking hours to do this? Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas was on Fox News earlier, and he said there's an obvious solution here, a really obvious solution. Most Americans can handle this on their own.
I agree with you that you have to get to these criminals early. If something like this happened in Arkansas on a bridge there, let's just say I think there'd be a lot of very wet criminals that have been tossed overboard, not by law enforcement, but by the people whose road they're blocking. If they glued their hands to a car or the pavement, well, probably pretty painful to have their skin ripped off. But I think that's the way we'd handle it in Arkansas. And I would encourage most people anywhere that get stuck behind criminals like this who are trying to block traffic to take matters in their own hands. There's only usually a few of them, and there's a lot of people being inconvenienced. It's time to put an end to this nonsense.
Yes, indeed. Time to put an end to all of this nonsense. In Arkansas, we wouldn't suffer this, says the senator from Arkansas. Meanwhile, you also had disruptions today in Philadelphia, Center City, Philadelphia, about an hour this morning, beginning at 8:15 in the morning, police dispersing everything around 9 a.m. Today, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. Additionally, Tampa seems to be the record holder on clearing this up. Southbound traffic coming off of I-275 into downtown Tampa this morning came to a grinding halt, according to CL Tampa, a local news outlet there. 50 anti-Israel lunatics blocking traffic going into Tampa. And that was only 15 minutes. Only 15 minutes. Local cops getting there and clearing it up within 15 minutes. So another win for the free state of Florida, as they seem to be beating everybody in terms of how quick they can respond to this and get things back open. That's what's happening there. So it's not just shutting down traffic, though, the insanity that we're seeing from, again, the extremists that we have in the United States of America now. The White House spends no time on any of this. We also have people threatening to murder city council members. And the mayor of Bakersfield, California, a woman by the name of Reedy Patel this past week, gets up during the public comment section and says, we need to bring out the guillotines for you, and we will go to your homes and we will murder you. These are the anti-Israel sentiments proudly shared in public.
Hi there, my name is Reedy Patel. I'm here to speak in support of the City Council introducing a ceasefire resolution, specifically the one United Liberation Front has drafted. I don't have faith that you'll do this. You guys are all horrible human beings, and Jesus probably would have killed you himself. And the thing is, though, it's very clear to me as someone who's been an organizer for the past couple of years that none of you care, because you guys don't care about anything happening in Palestine or any other country where oppression occurs, because you don't care about the oppression occurring here. And I understand that you guys are all horrible people, but the thing is, 2,300 people being evicted in the last year, those are votes. And you guys, those are votes to win here in Bakersfield. And while you guys parade Gandhi around as a Hindu holiday called Chaitra Navratri, it starts off this week, I remind you that these holidays that we practice, that other people in the global south practice, believe in violent revolution against their oppressors. And I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. The increased criminalization for no need other than you don't like when people come and hold you guys accountable for introducing ceasefire resolutions, because the only...
By the way, I'm still a little confused how she got two different public comment periods. It looks like these are two separate events, two separate moments at the same event where she keeps threatening to kill the city council members. They don't arrest her until she gets all of the words out of her mouth.
Escalation in violence has been by you all, and so there's no need to continue. In the last 5 years I've attended city council meetings, there's never been metal detectors, there's never been more cops. The only reason you're doing it is because people actually don't care if you guys don't like them, and they're actually resisting, so you want to criminalize them. So regardless of whether you elect people into office, they'll backstab you, they'll let you die, and for that reason, you guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors, we'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Okay, you got all that? No. So what I'm about to play is kind of the pregnant pause of audio as everyone's looking around bewildered. What do we do? They have like 2 or 3 cops in the room who are kind of glancing at each other like, what do we do here? The woman just said, we're going to see you at your homes and murder you. Here's that moment.
Next speaker, please.
Lance, followed by Kev, followed by Valeria.
Ms. Patel, that was a threat, what you said at the end, and so the officers are going to escort you out and take care of that.
The cops approaching her and taking her into custody. She was sobbing as she pled not guilty to 18 felony counts this weekend, including making terroristic threats. It's insanity. It's insanity. I'm shocked she was arrested in California. I guess that's the surprise ending here. She was arrested, 18 different counts. She was ordered to be held on $1 million bail and to stay at least 500 yards away from City Hall. She made those comments last Wednesday before the city council meeting. That's wild. Also, not the only wild thing. A lot of this going on. Chicago. We had people gathered at an anti-Israel, I guess, like training session in Chicago over the weekend, Saturday. And they were teaching the assembled how to say death to Israel and death to America in Farsi in the Windy City. This is what that sounded like.
So I'm going to teach you a chant in Persian that you can use if you ever encounter those Zionist freaks, whether they be Iranian or whatever, all right? Now, I don't drink margaritas, but we all know what a margarita is. We all know what a bar is. So you're going to say, Marg bar. Marg bar. Marg bar Israel. Marg bar Israel. Marg bar Israel. Marg bar Israel.
Now, you should know at first, they're just aping him. They don't actually know what he's saying. And you'll hear in a moment, they ask for clarification. What did we just say? And then they're super excited when they find out.
Marg bar Israel.
Marg bar Israel.
Thank you.
What does that mean?
What does that mean, she says?
So, it has 2 meanings, depending on who's asking. It can mean death to or down with. So,
can we get a Marg bar America?
We can get a Marg bar America. Yes, we can. Marg bar America!
Marg bar America.
Marg bar America!
Marg bar America.
Thank you.
Later that evening, as missiles began to rain in from Iran into Israel, the same group meeting in Chicago, one of the organizers announced that the missiles were flying in. Now remember, this group calls itself anti-war, when in reality, they're just anti-Israel. They're perfectly happy with war against Israel. They love that. They say they're anti-war. Listen to this audio. You tell me if they're anti-war.
I just have to report something to everyone. And so it begins, so to speak. 12 days ago, Israel brazenly hit an Iranian embassy compound in Syria, violating international law again, and Iran has just responded about 30 minutes ago.
This is happening in America. This is happening right here in America.
In addition, there are reports of drones having been fired on Israel from Yemen and Iraq as well.
Yeah, so that's the crowd in Chicago, the anti-Israel crowd in Chicago over the weekend, Saturday. As the news was breaking of this huge Iranian attack on Israel, they were cheering it on. They claim to be anti-war. They're opposed to war. Yeah, that's right. Alex is in Kansas City, line 2. Alex, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, thanks, Vince. It is, I'm telling you, man, it's a pleasure listening to your show. It's always irreverent. It's funny. It's a great time.
Thank you, sir.
So the one thing I noticed, the way you started the show, where is all law enforcement? I thought they were monitoring everything we do. You know, is there no collusion and pre-planning going on with these boneheads that are getting together at all these different cities and states?
No, we keep hearing, I mean, Alex, think about it. We keep hearing from Biden that there are crypto-fascists and dangerous extremist right-wingers everywhere, that MAGA is the extreme threat to this country, that the military is full of MAGA extremists, that parents going to school board meetings are extremists and need to be watched by the FBI. That's the message from the White House. On this, what is the message you've heard from the White House on all of this lunacy in our streets?
Nothing, but they need to renew FISA. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's the last thing they need. You're totally right about that.
Thanks.
Alex, thank you very much. Alex making many good points here. Hey, coming up in a moment, we're going to be talking to Mike Davis, talk about the tyranny of the administration. You've got lefties all across the country who are abusing their powers as prosecutors and judges to try and lock up Donald Trump and destroy his presidential campaign because they don't trust the voters to handle it. They can't. The voters might choose Trump over Biden, and that can't stand. So Donald Trump in a courtroom today in New York. Why? What's happening there? Mike Davis breaks it down in just a moment. Hey, good afternoon to you. 3:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up, Nate Hawkman joins us at 4:30. He's with the American Spectator. We talk about NPR's new ridiculous left-wing CEO. She's hilarious in an unintentional way. Joe Kent will be with us, the congressional candidate, at 5 o'clock, American military veteran. Will give us his reaction to Iran's all-out assault on Israel this weekend, protected by that Iron Dome. Kind of amazing. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The Alvin Bragg case beginning in earnest today in New York, and it's as ludicrous as you could possibly imagine. Jury selection starting today, and it'll take place over the course of the next 2 weeks. But the trial broadly is going to keep Donald Trump tied up and off the campaign trail for some 6 to 8 weeks, according to court watchers. For more on this, a man who's near that very court right now, Mike Davis, founder and president of the Article 3 Project, and he joins us on the phone. Mike, hello, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me.
What obviously the trial brings you to New York, Mike, but what are you doing down there? Are you able to get inside the courtroom, or are you doing media down there?
I am standing outside of the court on Media Row and talking to as many conservative outlets as I can to get out Trump's message, because this Democrat Manhattan Judge Juan Merchan has Trump illegally, unconstitutionally gagged. So President Trump, as a criminal defendant, cannot speak out about evidence he has that Judge Merchan has a conflict of interest. His adult daughter, Lauren Merchan, is a leading Democrat campaign consultant and fundraiser. He's worked for Biden and Kamala Harris and Adam Schiff and other Democrat campaigns and causes, and she's raised over $100 million, or nearly $100 million, on this criminal trial alone, over which her father, Judge Juan Merchan, is presiding. This Judge Juan Merchan donated to Biden in 2020. He donated to another anti-Trump cause when President Trump raised this clear evidence of bias. Judge Merchan responded with an illegal, unconstitutional gag order against President Trump. And they've also gagged President Trump where he can't talk about how this Manhattan DA, this George Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, brought in Matthew Colangelo as a senior Biden Justice Department political appointee to resurrect this zombie case against Trump that the prior Manhattan DA, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, the Federal Election Commission, and Alvin Bragg himself declined to prosecute until they weaponized this case, politicized and weaponized this case to interfere in the election. This is lawfare. This is election interference. And so I'm out here talking to as many media outlets as possible. I think you're like my 10th interview today. And I would say this to these Democrat prosecutors and judges: there's no way in hell you're going to gag me. You're going to have to put me in jail first.
Mike Davis, one of the other ways this Judge Merchan apparently has helped this George Soros-funded attorney Alvin Bragg go after Trump is he actually extended the statute of limitations on a felony charge against Trump by an extra year because he said COVID allows him to do that. Is that true? COVID-19 emergencies allow you to change the rule of law?
Apparently. And remember what this allegation is. You have, back in around 2016, President Trump allegedly paid off a nuisance claim to make someone go away, which businessmen do all the time. And then Trump's bookkeepers and accountants booked it in 2017, allegedly, right? And so what Alvin Bragg is trying to say with this bogus legal theory is that when he booked these in 2017, it was somehow a campaign benefit from 2016. It's somehow a campaign finance violation from 2016. It is a laughable legal theory. This is the Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, who is downgrading violent felony charges against people who are pushing old ladies down the stairs at churches and punching kids in the face. They're not going after those violent criminals for felonies. They're downgrading them to misdemeanors at best, and sometimes just letting them go while they're trying to upgrade these bookkeeping misdemeanors at best that are clearly time barred beyond the statute of limitations to go after Trump. And as you said, even the felony charges would be time barred, but for the fact they're trying to blame COVID.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a feature of the law. Like, so just a health emergency means that you get an extra year? The judge can just make that up? Don't you need legislation to declare that?
Yeah, it seems pretty crazy. But look, there's no chance in hell that President Trump is going to get a fair trial with these Democrat prosecutors and these Democrat judges and these Democrat juries and these Democrat witnesses and other operatives in these Democrat hellholes like New York, D.C., and Atlanta. Well, this jury pool is 85% against President Trump. There's no chance in hell Trump's going to get you have a biased judge who donated to Biden, and his daughter is making money working for Biden, including making money working on this trial. You have this biased prosecutor with Matthew Colangelo coming up from the Biden Justice Department and the Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg. You have a jury pool that's 85% against Trump. There's no way in hell. This is why the Democrats waged this lawfare in election interference in New York, D.C., and Atlanta.
So let's talk first and foremost about the jury selection. It's going on starting today, and it's going to apparently take the next 2 weeks. You can correct my misunderstanding, if any, over any of this. I saw the questionnaire, and among the questions prospective jurors are being asked are you on Truth Social? They're literally vetting whether or not you might be a Trump supporter based on if you're on Truth Social, his social media app. And what role, if any, does Trump's team play here in jury selection? Are they going to be able to argue for any favorable jurors or any dispassionate people here?
I mean, remember what they're doing here. You have, like 2 million people who live in Manhattan, and you're going to try to find 12 jurors and another 6 alternate jurors out of those 2 million people. It's 85% against Trump. And they're asking questions on this jury questionnaire to weed them out for their bias, whether they follow Trump on social media, ask them why they if they follow other Trump causes, if they're on truth, but they're not asking in this jury questionnaire, this Democrats, Manhattan judge, Juan Merchan's not asking these potential jurors if they follow Biden, right? And so you're gonna be able to quickly find out if these are Trump supporters, and then the prosecution gets 10 peremptory challenges where they can just get rid of, you might find 10 Trump supporters in all of Manhattan, and when they fill out this questionnaire, the prosecution is going to be able to get rid of all 10 of them.
Okay. And then the trial itself, I mean, in combination of jury selection and the trial itself, I'm seeing these reports that it could take at least 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. That's a lot of time. And Donald Trump will be stuck in a courtroom every day of the week except for Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday, he has to be in the courtroom. And the judge today, my understanding is he threatened Trump with arrest if he doesn't appear.
Which is insane, right? So this is obviously part of the Democrats' campaign of lawfare and election interference. They want President Trump in a courtroom instead of on the campaign trail. And it's what we've been talking about for nearly 2 years, going back to the unprecedented, unlawful, unnecessary Mar-a-Lago raid on Trump for presidential records he's allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. This is lawfare, and we've been saying it for nearly 2 years. People said we were conspiracy theorists and crazy, and here we are in April of 2024, just 6 months before the election really heats up, before voting starts heating up in October and November, and they want Trump in a courtroom. It's so blatant, it's so transparent what they're doing. And it's these, as I've been saying for many, many months, these are republic-ending tactics. The people who pretend like they're saving democracy are destroying democracy. They're trying to bankrupt Trump for non-fraud and non-defamation. They're trying to put him in prison for the rest of his life for non-crimes. They try to take him off the ballot. These Democrats fear American voters on November 5th, 2024, because they know that the American people want President Trump back in the White House, and the American people aren't going to tolerate Democrat prosecutors and judges and other attorneys instead of the American people deciding this next election.
Also, the process, we often hear the phrase, the process is the punishment. That's certainly the case here. If you're freezing a major presidential candidate off the campaign trail for 2 whole months on nonsense charges that do not rate this type of pain, then this is cruel and unusual, Mike, what we're watching.
It's worse than that. This is a criminal conspiracy by these Democrat operatives, these judges, these prosecutors, these other attorneys, these other operatives. This is a criminal conspiracy to violate the civil rights of Trump, his top aides, his attorneys, his supporters. This is obvious lawfare. This is obvious election interference. This is a criminal conspiracy, and there must be consequences for this after President Trump wins re-election on November 5th, 2024. The Trump 47 Justice Department must open a criminal probe on this blatant criminal conspiracy to violate the civil rights of so many Americans.
President Trump said on Friday, as he was standing alongside Speaker Mike Johnson, that he would absolutely testify in this trial. From your legal perspective, is that a wise decision, regardless of how righteous his testimony might be?
I would say this, that in normal circumstances, no, you generally don't have the criminal defendant testify in most circumstances. But this is no normal case. This is not a real criminal case. This is election interference. This is lawfare. And if President Trump is gagged illegally and cannot go on the campaign trail, if he goes on the campaign trail, he gets thrown in prison by this Democrat operative in a robe, then guess what? President Trump they just need to let Trump be Trump and go do his thing. He's not going to get a fair trial no matter what. This Democrats dominated jury is going to find him guilty. This Democrat judges convict him. The conviction will get reversed on appeal, even if that means going up to the Supreme Court of the United States. But that's going to take many, 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 many months, maybe years for that to happen. This is about winning the election on November 5th, 2024.
Yeah, and they're really trying to stick it to him. They're not even, the judge right now apparently is contemplating whether or not he'll even let Trump away from the trial for his son Barron's high school graduation set to take place on May 17th. And the judge is contemplating whether or not he'll even allow it. I mean, how heartless to even consider keeping Trump in that courtroom.
Yeah, this Democrat judge is just a total partisan operative, and what he is doing with this case is highly destructive to our country. These are Republican tactics by these Democrats, where you can use our legal system to take out political opponents. And when you're a judge, you're supposed to be a check on that. Your job as a judge is to make sure the criminal defendant gets a fair trial and his constitutional rights are not trampled on by the prosecution. And they've put these illegal gag orders on President Trump. If there's anyone on the planet who must have the constitutional right under the First, Sixth, and 14th Amendments to speak out against the judge, the prosecutor, the staff, the witnesses, their biases or potential biases, the process, it is a criminal defendant going through a criminal process. And that is particularly true when you have a candidate, particularly a presidential candidate, the leading presidential candidate, they're trying to illegally, unconstitutionally gag and threaten to put him in prison if he speaks out about the evidence of the judge's clear bias, or if he doesn't sit in a chair for 2 months during the height of the campaign season. This is the stuff that you do in third world Marxist hellholes like Zimbabwe, North Korea, and now D.C., New York, and Atlanta. There must be severe legal, political, and financial consequences for what these Democrats are doing to Trump and his top supporters and his lawyers and his top aides. This is a criminal conspiracy to violate their civil rights.
Mike Davis, founder and president of the Article 3 Project just outside the courthouse there in New York. Sir, we'll have you back again soon, as always. Thank you very much, Mike. My thanks again to Mike Davis for joining us on what's happening down there in Manhattan at the courthouse. Meanwhile, across the Brooklyn Bridge, just in the last half hour here, you have anti-Israel extremists locking down traffic yet again. Now they're being chased off the bridge by the NYPD. The NYPD on their bicycles riding towards these guys en masse, huge group of cops heading towards them, tackling, grabbing, pulling, arresting the people who are trying to shut down traffic in and out of New York City. So this is a very live environment. This news story continues to develop all across the country. We've seen some strong police responses, like in New York. We saw it in Tampa earlier this morning, where they were able to stop one of these blockades in just 15 minutes time. And then, of course, we've seen what happened on the Golden Gate Bridge in and out of San Francisco as some of these crazy people kind of welded themselves together. They have the chains and the PVC pipe around their arms, and it took hours to clear that up. Hours outside of O'Hare Airport this morning in Chicago. People walking up and down the sides of the road, dragging their luggage behind them just to make it to their flights. And the anti-Israel Day of Action, or whatever they're calling it, they're shutting down traffic all across the country. And that is sure to have some real far-reaching consequences. I mean, think about the people who need medical services, the ambulances, the emergency vehicles, people who just need to go pick up their kids from school or drop them off in the first place. It causes a lot of chaos when you introduce that sort of unnecessary disruption to traffic, and it hurts the people who can least afford it. That's the truth. That's the truth. Penny's in Burke, line 1. Penny, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
I have not seen any video of Dearborn, Michigan, or Ann Arbor, Michigan, where we had, several, weeks ago, people chanting death to Israel and death to America.
Yes. Neither have I. You mean from the weekend? I haven't seen a thing from Dearborn, other than some kind of mealy-mouthed, maybe we shouldn't have said death to America quite so loudly because everyone's paying attention to us now.
Yeah, I don't know how that cannot be categorized as terrorism. Those people are terrorist threats.
Yeah, and screaming it right in the middle of the country brazenly. No arrests were made for anything like that. They're demanding death for America. And the media has dutifully covered it up, Penny. One of the reasons you and I aren't seeing footage, there aren't cameras there. Nobody's going to Dearborn to capture what's happening there. In fact, the media tried to make this thing go away even after we even got the White House to admit it sounded crazy. The media refusing to cover it. And that's what's happening. We have extremists in America. Our media don't want to talk about them, and neither does the White House. Coming up, we'll talk. We've got, again, the breaking news out of New York. Disruptions to traffic in New York City on the Brooklyn Bridge. Cops chasing the anti-Israel lunatics on the bridge, arresting them. Julio Rosas is there live. We just connected with him, which means he'll be joining me in just a moment.